Welcome to the Career Jitsu Podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling... Wow, our Career Jitsu podcast listeners are really in for a treat today. We are so excited. Frank and I have an opportunity to interview Allie Bailey. Allie is from the UK. She is a professional educator and also a BJJ Academy owner from Hastings, England. She is a third degree black belt. Her and her husband own an academy called Dark Star Jiu-Jitsu. Her husband is he's a fourth degree black belt, and Allie was telling me he is one of the first 6 UK born black belts, which is really cool. So not only does Allie have a wealth of experience on the mats, she is going to tie in her professional education. She has a master's degree in education. She's a former assistant principal, and she's also a former director of teaching and learning in the UK. So I am going to dub her as the youth coaching specialist today. That's your new title right now on the Career Jitsu podcast, Allie, a youth coaching specialist. So she has written a book, and we are going to talk a little bit about that book today too. It's called Coaching the Next Generation. And it is amazing because if you have a chance to read this book, you will see that it is actually endorsed by Mauricio Gomes. If anybody who was in the jiu-jitsu world knows, Mauricio Gomes is the father of Roger Gracie. He is a red belt in jiu-jitsu and is he is the first Gracie Baja franchise owners in England. And so it is amazing. And if he has endorsed Allie's book, then you know that there is some high quality information in this book. So she is going to talk about her book and what content she has in that book for our listeners. Frank, myself, and Allie, all three of us are educators. So this is going to be amazing because our listeners are going to be able to get so much valuable information from this podcast today, because our listeners are going to hear the perspective of 3 different educators, most importantly, Allie being our guest. But this is going to be a nice flowy conversation, and everyone is going to get a lot out of this. So welcome aboard to our podcast, Allie.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
We are so excited to have you here. And for our listeners, there's a word in Spanish. It's called polivalente. Polivalente, which means great at many things. And that's the word that popped into my mind, getting to know Allie and all of the things that she's accomplished, teaching little people, teaching adults on how to teach our young people, then becoming an entrepreneur, opening her own gym, and then obviously being a black belt. This woman has things to share from so many different perspectives. We are just so excited. And our listeners get to listen to this awesome, crisp, pristine English accent. It's amazing. So we're excited to hear that and hear of all of your thoughts. Allie, thank you so much for coming on our show. I'm going to start by asking you a little bit about your career in teaching and some of the obstacles maybe you found when you started teaching, and how you grew into then becoming a director of professional development and also a vice principal in your school and all the other things, and now also coaching kids. How did that all come together? Where did it start?
Do you know, it started when I had my children quite young, and I was looking for a job that would allow me to be a mom and to have a job. And education was the most obvious thing to do, because it meant I could be at work when my kids were at school and off work when they weren't. Obviously, it doesn't really work like that in real life because the hours are longer, but it meant that I had school holidays available with my kids and things like that. So I actually started as an unqualified teacher. So I went into a school and I wasn't qualified at all, but I started teaching. And whilst I was teaching, I did a degree in education. So for 3 years, I was unqualified and I was learning how to be a teacher. And part of that was watching others. I was a real magpie, and I would watch other teachers teach whenever I had the opportunity and try to learn from them what worked really well and what didn't. Different age groups and different subjects and different classroom setups, whether it was more physical, more academic, more hands-on. So I was a bit of a magpie to begin with. So I was working full time. I was a mum and I did my degree online essentially. And then I got my degree, did my qualified teacher status. In the UK, it's called qualified teacher status. And then you have to sort of be signed off as a teacher, as it were. And by this point, I became the head of my department. So my department was information technology. So it was computers, not coding in the way that it is now, but more web design, using spreadsheets, databases, Microsoft Office type, learning how to use all the different software. So I was teaching ICT, and I then became an advanced skills teacher, which is a qualification. It doesn't exist in the UK anymore. But when I was back in the day when I was doing that, I became an advanced skills teacher, which meant that I had to demonstrate that I was above and beyond the level of a typical teacher. So I really enjoyed that process because it made me think really hard about what I was doing in the classroom. So I had to be quite creative in terms of how I taught my children, because sitting in front of a computer can be really tricky for kids. I don't know if you must use computers in your subject, I think.
We use them all. We do a lot of spreadsheet analysis, a lot of it.
So you're constantly having to think about 30, however many kids in a classroom, who's on their spreadsheet, who's on the internet, who's trying to download music, who's trying to do. So to be absolutely sure that I was engaging.
Playing the games, the little worm game that chases its tail. I've caught them doing that. Yep.
And they're quick at minimizing the screen and being back on the spreadsheet.
They're so good. They're black belts at that.
Amazing. So I knew through this qualification I would have a lot of people coming to watch me. They were going to interview my kids, interview the parents. There was a lot to do with that. So I got this qualification, and it kind of made me obsessed with being the best teacher I could possibly ever be. And that's kind of what I did. And I then did a master's degree in education, and I specifically looked at specific styles of teaching. That was kind of what I did my major dissertation on, was looking at specific styles of teaching and how that impacted the learner, whether a more behaviorist style would work or whether we were thinking about giving kids more autonomy. And that's what I did for my master's. And then I went on to become assistant principal. And my passion for teaching and learning was really obvious. So my whole school in the UK, the way things tend to work if you're in a leadership position is you still teach and you have a whole school responsibility. And mine was teaching.
What? Wait, you still had a teaching load as an assistant principal?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy. How did you balance? That is 2 full-time. Is that normal in England?
Absolutely.
That does not happen here. So you teach and you have to discipline kids and you have to come up with policy and you have to talk to the fire department about coding, and how do you do all of that as one job?
I guess it's just the job that we have to do. So I guess you just do it. It's expected. I mean, my teaching load wasn't huge. I think I taught 6 to 8 periods a week. So maybe the equivalent of a day, a little bit more than a day of teaching. But with that comes planning and teaching and marking and parents' evenings and all the additional outside of it.
There's one good thing about that. There's one good thing. And that is you're always in the trenches, so you know what teachers feel like.
Exactly.
That switch doesn't go over. You've seen this happen. A great teacher becomes an administrator, and all of a sudden it's like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? You're not the person we knew. And that is one way to keep you grounded in, this policy is not going to work for our teachers, right?
Absolutely. And you're also teaching the kids that may be a little bit more challenging to engage. And you can go talk to your colleagues and say, do you know what? I've got this young lad in my class and I'm really struggling to get through to him. Have you got any tips for me that I can utilize? And I think the respect from your colleagues is there because they know you're doing it too. And I always had an open door policy where if anybody ever wanted to, because I had to go and performance manage and judge their teaching, my policy was my door is always open. you can always come and see me teach in the way that I come and see you teach. So I never wanted to be that person where I was there with, my clipboard and ticking my boxes and not showing.
Yes.
I was absolutely doing the same thing.
It
I
definitely allows you to keep that respect level between your, staff and administrators, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully you hope that will be the case, I guess. I mean, I was really fortunate. I felt that I taught a subject that was really fun for the kids. I think kids love using IT. They love using technology. But when I first started doing that, we didn't have smartphones and all the technology we have now. So building websites and creating animations and making video editing and things like that, super fun for the kids. I always was a bit of a maverick and went my own way. And I always played music in my classroom from speakers. And I had a theory that if their ears were busy and their eyes were busy and their hands were busy, their mouths would generally not be. And that was pretty good. That worked out quite well for me because we just utilized a lot of those senses. And I always try to teach my classes in a fun way. Wherever possible, I tried to make sure the kids had fun because I think that's how we learn best. And that's why jiu-jitsu is awesome, right? Because we have fun.
You just nailed one of the biggest principles of success. One of my best friends who is a teacher who kind of trained me to be a teacher said there can be no true learning without an element of fun. And I also saw that in here. You talked about that too, the element of fun, the element of play. And if you actually look at the jujitsu and even boxing videos that are online right now, so many of them are saying sparring should not be that hard. Sparring should be fun, and you're going to learn a lot more than if you just go hard every day. You're going to have less injuries and you're going to learn more. And that has always been my philosophy of teaching as well, that if my kids are having fun, then wrapping the learning in that is so much easier than going to the dentist, right? You don't want to be pulling teeth.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to fight over whether they're going to listen to you or not or follow instructions. You just want them to want to do the thing you're asking them to do and enjoy what they're doing and feel success when they leave the classroom. That's the goal, isn't it? Doesn't work for everybody all the time, but I think if that's your philosophy and the kids, I think if the kids come to class with the mindset of, oh, this teacher's quite fun, like she lets us listen to music, she lets us, talk a little bit, but not too much, the stuff we do in the lesson is fun, we enjoy it, then they're going to want to come to class and they're going to want to succeed. I think that's
correct. And you also talked about something in your book that I thought was very wise. You said in your book that yes, content delivery is important, but that's like a good teacher. A great teacher helps kids find their aspirations and then inspires them to do that. The inspirational component makes you an excellent teacher. I remember when I read that, if I think of all the best teachers I've ever had, they weren't only giving me knowledge in math or English or whatever, they were inspiring me to believe in myself, inspiring me of what's possible, inspiration. And that is totally left out of most education classes, right? I mean, you have a master's in education. So you probably have seen there's a lack in a lot of educational pedagogy telling you how to be a good educator. They don't touch on that enough of the aspirations and inspiration component of being a teacher.
But I think the other problem that educators have, I don't think I've ever met an educator that doesn't want to do that and doesn't have that within them to do. I think it's the same in the US. The content there's so much content that you have to deliver and the testing is so rigid and and the goals, the targets that teachers have is so rigid that you've just got to get that content into the kids in any which way you can so they're ready for their tests.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always leave room for the inspirational teaching that we want to deliver because we've just got to get this learned. And I need you to, it's kind of, you've got to write this down. You've got to revise this information. You have to know this. We have to practice writing this paragraph or completing this task. And it's
well, I think that's where, sorry to cut in, I think that's where your philosophy of one size fits all does not work. For example, in my school, we have teachers who teach advanced placement calculus. Those kids are there for a purpose. They want to get as many of the formulas down and usable as they can. The teacher is not going to be able to teach them every single thing. So the teacher has to say, I think these are the most important formulas. If I had more time, I'd teach you more. The kids are like, ready, set, go. That teacher has a very specific objective and does not need to talk about all of the tricks of the trade of connecting. Yeah, they're important, but really those kids are ready to learn. They're like, give me what I need. I'm going to go home. I'm going to study it. I'm going to stay after. Then there's another group of kids that, for example, we had a professional development person come in, and his whole thing was, it was a little goofy, but it was like, teach like a pirate. And he had all of these methods to create fun relationships with the kids. And for kids who have problems at home, where they don't care about your formula, they have a hard time doing a fraction. They're in algebra. 2/4 is hard for them. Their dad and mom may not be together. There might be alcoholism. Those teachers need way more techniques on what kind of music do you listen to? Hey, what's your favorite car? What do you do when you get home? Let's put on a poem and let's read the poem that's inspirational. Those people need a teach like a pirate kind of person so that they can learn the basic 2/4, 7 plus x equals 11. Like we want you to at least have the basic fundamentals so you can survive in the real world. So I think when you talk about the inspiration piece and the music and the connecting, you're right. That has a much deeper place in certain theaters than others.
I also, my theory with kids has always been, I really like kids. I love kids. It's my passion and my joy to work with children all day, every day. I love it. And my kids know that. They know the minute they walk through the door, whether it's my classroom or my jiu-jitsu academy, I'm genuinely happy to see them. I really want to be with them. And I really genuinely want them to succeed. I am not there because it's my job. I'm not there for the money. I'm there for them. And that to me is really important in terms of making a connection with a child. They know. They're not stupid. Kids, even at age 3, I start teaching kids at age 3. My kids know I like them. They just know. And they know they can jump on me, or they know they can tell me about their wobbly tooth. And they know that I care and I want to know about that. They genuinely know. And I think connection with that relationship is the number one thing to help anybody, like any human connection. So important.
That is, I completely agree with you that kids can sniff a fake immediately. And just a testament to what you're saying, I remember my first year teaching, there was a guy in our English department, and his advice to me was, don't crack a smile until December. Let them know who's boss. And I'm like, ugh, I would not want a teacher like that. And what happened to him, and it's good that it happened to him, is that he got eaten up alive and spit out, which he should have. Because if your kids don't see you smile until December, you have no business being in that classroom. The sad ending is he ended up going to get his master's in administration to become an administrator. Wow. That sucks because we don't want you now to,
telling us what
at
to
the
do.
helm. Right. But I love that you say when your kids walk into your class, they see your face and they know you're happy to see them. That is the number one test that a teacher should be graded on. If I was an administrator, I'd look at the teacher's face when the kids walk in. If it's solemn and morbid, get out, get another job, do something else. That face better light up on, 9 out of 10 days because everybody has a down day, right? But I love that you said that. I hope educators are listening to this, but go ahead. I usually wait till the end to wrap things up, but I keep interjecting myself because you have such good points and they're like hitting me right here. So go on, keep going.
I think the only other thing I would say on it, and again, I did this in my classroom, I do it on the mat. I'm really clear from day one about my boundaries and my expectations. And they're really simple. Like my expectations are super simple. They are, if I'm talking, you're listening, the end. Like there is no other point for you, but I want you to be curious. I want you to ask questions. I want you to always say what's on your mind. I want you to challenge me. Don't always believe everything I say. Challenge me on it. And question everything I tell you until we're absolutely sure. we've got it right. We're going to have fun. But if we step over the line and we start breaking the rules, then I'm not such a nice, lovely person and I will pull you back in line. But as long as we're all kind of doing the right thing and we're all kind of having fun and we're listening and we're following the instructions, we're all good. And I never, ever deviate from that. If I say that I'm going to do it, I do it. The end. And the kids learn really fast where that line is. And they know if they step over it, they know exactly what will happen. And they know if they don't step over it, they know exactly what will happen. And it's amazing, really, for behavior. I have my juniors class, I have a class of 8, 9 and 10-year-olds. And this morning I had 30 in the class, but I regularly have 40 kids in one class. And they're 8, 9 and 10. So I do have support. I have assistant coaches with me, but that's a lot of kids to manage doing jiu-jitsu with submissions and sparring and, watching the whole room. So if I'm not crystal clear with my boundaries and, chaos ensues, it's very difficult. And the same would be true in a classroom, right? If you've got a large class of kids and you're not absolutely on it with your expectations, and as long as they're fair, I find that kids are, okay, cool, that's fair. We'll stick to that. That's cool. That's okay. But I think you just to tell the kids first, this is what I want from you. This is what I need. And if you give me this is what you'll get in return, and stick to it.
Stick to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope our listeners are catching in this, what Allie's saying here with the connection. I think you have to connect with students. And I love that you said that, Allie, being able to just make that connection with kids in that. And I think when you do that, when you connect with them, you're able to create more like lifelong learners, not just people that are there just to learn in the moment and learn a certain technique, but you're creating people that are willing, you're kind of guiding their learning to becoming, lifelong learners where they're ready to learn other things, not just techniques, but character building, things like that. So I think that's awesome. And one of the things I was thinking of when you were talking, Allie, is about confidence. I think like you were saying that you give them clear expectations. And I think when you give kids clear expectations, it automatically builds their confidence because they walk into that academy and they know, wow, I know what she expects. I'm going to perform up to her expectations. And if I do that, I'm going to have the confidence to do well and learn.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit about how you build confidence on the mats? Because I think our listeners would love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, it's relative. It's quite holistic. We have to meet children where they are. I think it depends on the age group. So we have 3 and 4-year-olds. I start with a class of 3 and 4-year-olds. We do real jiu-jitsu with them. It's not just play. We do a takedown or a set. We lean heavily into self-defense. We do a lot of wrist releases and choke defenses and lots of good break falls and not letting anybody grab your legs and lots of things like that. And then we do all the ground techniques are very much about transition into mount, passing the guard, escaping back control, keeping sticky grips. And it's real simple, but it's real jiu-jitsu. And my expectation is that they will sit in a line and they will be still and they will listen when we teach and they will practice those techniques really well with their partner. And they do. And because of that, because I'm so clear with that, they just get on with it and then they can do it. And then we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Can you come and show? Can you come and show us what you've just done? Because it's awesome. And then the parents will give them all a big clap and then they're showing off and they're showing their parents how great they were. I mean, this week, I don't know if you know, but, we've had a heat wave in the UK. It's been insanely hot, 37 degrees. We have we talk about it in different, I don't know what that is over in the way you do it. Is it like
somewhere around
I think it's like 100 and something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really hot.
Yeah.
We have no air conditioning in our school. So it's really hot on the mat. So I've been trying to think this week of what can I do with jiu-jitsu that doesn't involve connection? I need to do the opposite thing because they're all going to be boiling and then we're going to stick them together and they're going to be 2 hot water bottles making each other hotter. And one of the things I really struggle to teach kids is shrimping, hip escapes, like getting that move.
Oh, yes.
And when they're tiny, it's really hard to do. So generally we start on a hand and we push our butt back and we do a little butt scoot, then we go down to our elbow. Then the minute we go down to our shoulder, they just wriggle around like fish and they don't do it. So this week it was my mission to teach them to hip escape. And I came up with a method for it. And all the kids went off with a coach on their own and we did this method. And by the end of the session, every child did a hip escape from their shoulder. Every single one of them, 3 and 4 years old. And it was just, they had the confidence to do it because we were like, by the end of the class, by the way, you're just going to do this. It's really simple. You're going to do it this way. And they're like, okay. But because we give them tasks that are within their reach, they're not impossible, but they're also not dumbed down. They are the same techniques that an adult would do. We would transition to the mount by getting a really good side control pin and we'd spider walk and we'd slide the knee across the belly. We'll do it the same way an adult would do it. Or we just do it in 3 steps and we don't talk about isolating the arm and where my weight is and where my head should be. And we don't worry about the detail. We just worry about the basic mechanic. And those kids they know they're doing adult technique and they know they can do it. And we just build things and we meet them where they are. When they're ready to do something a little bit more complicated, we add that in and then they go, we can do something even harder. And I tell them about the grown-ups did this in class this morning and they go, wow, we did the grown-up technique. You just did jiu-jitsu, it's fine. You just did it. But we won't tell them off. We don't get cross with them. If they're not doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, we remind them of the expectations. We just stop what we're doing and we say, okay, we're in the line. I have 2 things. There's 2 things we do in the line. We are quiet and we are still. That's it. They're the only 2 things we expect. So please go back.
So Allie, can I ask you just quickly, like, what do you do? Do you have a timeout or some kind of consequence? Let's say you have a kid who's not listening. Like, all right, so a kid, you're like, everybody line up, everybody stand here, watch this technique, and a kid starts poking the other kid, or there's something and he does it twice. Do you have some kind of consequence, and what would that be?
So I would say, what should we be doing in the line? And they'll tell me they should be quiet and still. And I'll say, please, can we do that then? And they will go back and then they'll poke again. And I'll look at them and they'll go and they'll sit back down. And then the final thing, if it's very, 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 very rare, I'll give them the choice. And I'll say, I'm going to give you the choice to do as I've asked, or I'm going to take you over to your mum and you're going to sit off the mat for 1 minute. And then we're going to have a conversation about you rejoining the class. So that's what we do. If they really can't,
That's smart. That's smart.
Very rare, but they choose their behavior. We never choose it. We allow them the choice. We give them very clear guidance. This is this. You follow the instruction, or we'll just give you the timeout with your mum. But we don't let them back on the mat, just back on the mat. We just I'll go over generally and say, are you going to listen? Are you going to come and do what we've asked you to do? And they will go, yeah, okay. And then back on they come and it's fine. But I think it's really important that children have autonomy. To where we can give them autonomy, we should allow that, because they spend a lot of time being told, don't do that, sit down, be quiet, can you write that, do the thing I'm telling you to do. And they're great and they're compliant, but compliance doesn't equal learning. Just because a child is doing something, it doesn't mean they're learning it or that they're absorbing it. It just means they're following the instruction. So I think when we're giving children a little bit more autonomy and choice, they're more engaged in what they're doing because they've made an absolute choice to do it. They're not doing it as you say. And I think that's really important. And I don't think everybody gives kids enough credit to believe that they're able to do that. And they are able to do that from the age of 3. In my experience, they are absolutely able to do it.
That age is the most formative age, where you're becoming who you're going to be. You're the most like Play-Doh, the most malleable, and the lessons are easier learned. Like, if you don't do it at 3, good luck at 9. Seriously, right? If you don't educate kids when they're 3, you can do it at 9, but instead of bending, you have to break the mold, crush it, and then reform it. Where they're still like Play-Doh at 3. That is the best time to be doing that.
It's a great time to do it. And they're brilliant.
Yes.
They're so brilliant. Kids of that age are extraordinary when you give them the space to show you how extraordinary they are. I just think you never underestimate any of the kids ever.
Yeah. The power of positivity too, right, Allie? I mean, I think all kids crave modeling positive behavior. So if they, a lot of times in classes when I'm teaching, I'll have kids doing, say like have a group of kids doing the same thing together. And if one or two kids let's say you have 10 kids, if one or two of them are not really doing the task that I ask them to do, I'll point to the kids that are doing the task correctly. And I'll say, great job, Johnny. That's an awesome front kick you just did right there. And then all of a sudden the kids who are not following along look over and they see Johnny doing the front kick that he just got praise from. And then all of a sudden now they're doing the front kick, So I think kids model that. That's one of the strategies that I like to use is
Absolutely.
just ignore. Sometimes the best thing is to just ignore the misbehavior, point out the positive behavior, and those misbehavior kids will follow right in line.
And sometimes it's just a thing of saying, are you stuck? Do you need some help? If they're not doing the thing, it may be that they're acting out a little bit or being a bit silly because they don't really they haven't fully understood, but they didn't want to put their hand up and tell anyone. So sometimes just asking, are you stuck? Or they'll go, no, and they'll just quickly get on with it. Or they might say, actually, I've forgotten this step here. I don't really get this bit. And then you just give them some support and move on. But I think kindness is so important. Kindness and positivity and trying to meet them wherever they are. And understanding. The other thing I think is so important to recognize is knowing your children and speaking to parents. I teach a lot of kids that are on the spectrum and they have high levels of autism. They have ADHD, some medicated, some not, some on a pathway, not been diagnosed yet, but showing the signs. I'm sure both in everything that you do, if you work with children like that, they present in different ways. And some have to fiddle and jump about and say things, blurt things out. Some are very withdrawn and they find it incredibly difficult to share when they're having a problem. Some kids that I teach find it really hard to be touched, which is that's a really interesting challenge in jiu-jitsu when they find being touched by another person. So we have to be super careful about who we partner them with and how we're kind of the expectation for that particular child. So it may be that we say, okay, we're not going to do the whole of this technique. We're just going to do the first 3 steps and see if you feel comfortable with that. And if you do, then we might add the next step on and so on. But I think it's that differentiation. You have to be able to know your kids and be able to make adjustments for them. Also to know the kids that are more advanced and be able to go and give them some additional challenge and say, okay, you've got this. You can do this, no problem. At the end of that, I now want you to do this, this, and this. So just work with the additional bits. And I think you have to be that person the whole lesson, wandering around and making sure everybody's got the right level of challenge. Do you agree?
That is probably the hardest part of it. And the people who usually get left out the most are the more gifted kids. If you think about your range, whether in jiu-jitsu, whether in education, in high school education, a lot of teachers have limited resources, limited time. And so obviously most of the class is taught to the mean, and then the people struggling get the extra care because as a teacher, if I can help, I have 5 minutes, who am I going to help? That kid, like for example, in my academic class, that kid is going to go to college and take accounting and he's going to shine. He doesn't need me for anything. Sure, I can give him an extra challenging thing, but the kid who usually gets the extra help is the kid who's like, I don't get what you just went over. And so I think it's very hard sometimes, Allie, to touch upon both sides of that standard deviation. Those tails are very difficult. And the one that usually gets left out for good reason, but you don't want it to happen, are those kids who can be a little bit more challenged. And I think that's a hard thing to do.
I'm really lucky. I've got an incredible coaching team. I'm really fortunate. A lot of dads that train jiu-jitsu come and support me. So often, I'll often have 2 black belts on the mat with me, black belt adults. I have a lot of brown belts that come and coach as well. So the majority of the dads that come and coach on the mat are black and brown belts, just through that they just happen to be, and their kids are training. They're bringing their kids anyway, so they jump on and help. But I also coach kids to be coaches. So I will identify some of my students who they have to have what I need from them. So they have to be kind. They have to be patient. They have to be articulate. They have to understand jiu-jitsu to a level where they can support another child. But I have kids as young as 8 assistant coaching in my classes, and I have a group of teenage boys that they just happen to be teenage boys at the moment who do a lot of coaching for me. They work for me 5 sessions a week, maybe, in the classes that are younger than their class that they're in. So they will coach kids from the age of 3
So
to...
do they do that just on a volunteer basis, or how does that work? They just show up to help?
No, I pay them. They have their set times that they come and coach, and I pay them to do it. So it's a real job for them.
That's
But
awesome.
we put them through like flat aid training, and we give them responsibility. So they do the attendance, they get the belts, they work who's ready to be graded. So they make sure that I've got the right tape, the right colored tape for the belts or the belts. They do loads in the class for me. But what I tend to do is, if I have new kids, so I'll have a juniors class where I've had kids that have trained since they were 3 and they're now 8. So they're 5 years into their journey. And I've got the new kid that's just started today, or somebody that's been training for a month. So I always assign the new kids a coach for the whole lesson. So one of my team coaches will work with the new kid for the whole session and make sure that they're okay. And what that does then is it allows the newer kids have somebody with them. And I know, okay, then my dads, my brown belts and black belts can filter around and be working sort of generally. Then that gives me the freedom to go and watch the upper belts, to be able to say, okay, now that I'd like you to put an Americana on the end of that sequence, or when she goes for that triangle, I want you to practice your defense now. So let her take one triangle, then we're going to work the defense. So I can differentiate that way through how I manage my coaching team. And that helps a lot.
Yeah, the difference between teaching and leadership, right, Allie? Like what you're talking about right there is leadership. You're teaching teachers how to teach.
Yeah.
That's important. It's important for your school to grow that way. It's important for, you to influence other teachers so they can become good teachers as well.
Absolutely. And I trust them. I always say I've got the best coaching team in the world. They are incredible. And I trust them implicitly.
You're talking about education and coaching, but this can be applied in careers across the board, like this leadership concept, right? Of being able to not only do your job, but also teach other people how to do the job right too. That is what leadership is in every career across the board. So it's great. So our listeners who are not just educators can really take a lot from that too, Allie.
Absolutely. I think as leaders, we sometimes fall into a trap of thinking we should be doing it all by ourselves. And I think the greatest leaders understand the skill set of their team, and they utilize that skill set because it makes you better. It makes your outcomes so much better if you've got an incredible team that you trust and you give autonomy to, and you let them shine and you let them be great. I mean, I have this one young coach. I've just written a reference for him because he's just finished school. He's just about to go. I wrote him a reference he's looking for an apprenticeship. And I wrote about the fact that one of my female students wanted to do a competition, but it was on a Saturday. And I have all my classes. I teach all my kids back to back. So I go 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plus back to back on a Saturday. And I was like, I can't leave 100 kids for one. I just can't do it. So I asked Adam, one of my coaches, to go with her to the competition, to be her coach. And he was incredible. Her parents went too. She's only 11. Adam's 16, so he's still pretty young. But he went with her. He made sure she warmed up properly. He was with her mat side. He got her mentally ready for this first match. She went out. She tapped this girl in 27 seconds, came back to the side. And then Adam talked her through, like, this is what you did really well. This is what we're going to take into the next match. She went out. She went into the final. She tapped the girl out. She won. She got the gold medal. And there's a lot to do with Florence and how amazing she is. But there was so much to do with Adam and his presence, Matt's side for her. And I think what a gift for me to have a 16-year-old who I can say, please, can you go and be me? Because I have to be here being me. You go and be me there. And him go, yeah, I can go and do that. And I trusted him implicitly to do it. And he did it. It was incredible. And I think
you probably felt even more proud that you saw him do that more than if you were the one doing it, right?
Yeah. And I just wrote about this in his reference because I thought this is that was huge. It was a really big thing that I asked him to do. I was a lot of pressure to put on a very young pair of shoulders. And he did it so brilliantly. I was very, very proud of him for that. And I think that's a privilege, isn't it, that we have when we're a school owner to be able to bring on others, not just technically on the mats, but building them into leaders of the future,
Make sure he sees this interview because that was really what you said. That will stick with him for a long time. So make sure he sees this when we publish this. Adam.
Yeah.
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 That's special. That's definitely special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good. He's amazing. They're all amazing. I'm very, very proud of all of my coaches. They're awesome. But I'm going to lose them. They're all going to go off to college and jobs, and I'll lose them because they won't have the time to be there. So I have to bring on another.
But you're not going to really lose them, Allie. The influence that you were on them, they're going to carry that with them. And so you don't really actually ever really lose them. That love and passion that you're giving out is it's going to just flourish, and it's going to make the world a better place.
I hope so. But I mean, they'll move to New.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, they're going to go out and spread their wings. But I always tell my students, once my student, always my student.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you stay in touch, and they do. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see where they go. And, you gave them their wings, and now they're flying, and you can look at all the places they go. I know that it is like when my kids graduate from high school, I'm like, I'm always sad. I'm like,
yeah,
I know you, and you're going to go to Colorado or you're going to go abroad. But that's part of the beauty of it. It's a bittersweet beauty. And your 3-year-olds are becoming 5-year-olds, your 5-year-olds are becoming 8-year-olds. And so the chain continues.
Exactly that. And the nice thing is, sort of linking it back to my time in school, I now teach the children of their parents are people that I taught when they were kids in school, which is that's so cool.
That is cool. Same here. Yeah. Same here. You're like, I taught you, and it makes you feel really old, but it's a very cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till you start to see grandchildren. That's when you know you're in trouble.
Yeah. I'll be too old maybe at that point.
Jen, you will not be too old. You'll be doing this for a long time. With your attitude and energy, you're not going to get old. You're going to keep going. Definitely. I'm sure of that.
And even with the challenges of teaching too, you'll still be able to be happy knowing that you're making a difference, because the challenges there's a lot of challenges with teaching it. Can you talk about, in our pre-interview, you talked about this program that you created because you said that you saw a need and that there were a lot of kids kind of just being pushed through the system, a lot of underserved children. And then you noticed that, and then you started a program I think you called it Alternative Education Program, and you're working with neurodivergent kids.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to our listeners a little bit about that program and what you're doing with that?
Sure. Yeah. So it goes back to that one size fits all. It really doesn't work for everybody. And there's always a group of young people in any educational environment for whom education is going to be a struggle. The 2 over 4 kids, the ones that they're always going to find education difficult. And oftentimes what we find in the classroom is that those are the kids that are acting out, and they're finding ways to be removed from the classroom or ways to not have to do the work because they find it so difficult. And it doesn't mean that they're bad kids. It just means that they struggle. And I don't know if it's the same in the US, but in the UK, it's very much a one size fits all. You're going to turn up to a classroom, you're going to sit down, you're going to do the work, you're going to leave, you're going to go do that again in another classroom. And for a lot of young people, that's really, really hard. So when I left sort of secondary, we call it secondary education, she's up to 11 to 16. When I left doing that, I thought for a long time about how we have this big problem and I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try and fix it. So we have in the UK this alternative education. It's a thing, but I thought, how can I use jiu-jitsu? Because I know the power of jiu-jitsu in terms of building confidence, resilience, channeling anger and frustration into something really positive. There's sort of discipline, respect, all of these things, all of these skills that we want these kids to have. How can I make that a thing? So I teamed up with my friend Zach, who is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, amazing jiu-jitsu guy and a personal trainer. And we created this program that's all about fitness jiu-jitsu, but very much about building those leadership skills, building communication, strategic thinking, confidence, discipline, resilience, all of those things. And so we work with local schools. So we offer a program, we offer a range of options. We can work with groups, we can work with 1 or 2 children, or we can work one-to-one. And again, we meet the kids where they are. So sometimes these kids are we're working with a student at the moment who is not in education at all, and education is never going to be appropriate for him, traditional education. So we work with him at the moment, and we are working with him on gross and fine motor skills because it's something that he's lacking. And we do big movement, we do fine movement, but we do it through fun things. So we get him to load a Nerf gun, pull the trigger and shoot at a target to see if we can get him to use his hands in that way. And then we do big gross movements like rolling and try, big things, hitting a ball or a balloon with a pool noodle or a racket or your hand. Sometimes that's how we have to work. Other times we test them in fitness, and then we spend weeks working with them on developing their fitness. And again, we always talk to them about, we're testing you against you. We're not testing you against anyone else in the room. We don't care what that guy can do or that girl can do. We want to know what you can do today. And we want to know if you can be better in 6 weeks from now. So we're only interested in your development. And we work with them in exactly the same way as we do with our kids. We do it with respect, with kindness, with clear expectation, and with a lot of fun. We make everything as fun as we can. And the other thing we do with them is we run a leadership program. So we do get them to lead. We get them to devise and lead activities and put them through a small qualification. And that has a massive impact on these kids, because they're often maybe not heard, feel like they're not heard or not listened to or not given opportunity to stand in front of the room and lead. And they've got real skill. Often I find kids that are able to behave badly are amazing leaders. Because they've got the confidence to be able to actually speak in front of a room. And it's often negative, but when you flip it and give them the opportunity to be positive, they run with it and they thrive, and they show us the most extraordinary creativity in terms of developing fitness, warm-ups, games, ideas that they will then happily share with the group. And once they're through the qualification, they'll come into the session again and they'll say, Allie, can I do the warm-up today? I've got a really good idea. And they continue to lead, which is really nice. And the idea of it is that they're able to go back into school. Overall, the idea is that they go back into school feeling successful, feeling a renewed sense of confidence that's calmer and quieter, and more measured. And they have the ability to talk to adults on an adult level in a rational way without shouting or getting upset. And once they do that, they're far more able to access their learning, because they can often talk about the reasons why they feel frustrated, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's quite a program. So do you bring the program to the school, or do the kids come to you? How does that work?
They come to us where possible.
At your school?
At your academy?
Yeah. We've got
at your academy.
Yeah. So we can do jiu-jitsu there because we're all matted, but I've got loads and loads of equipment there that's additional. So we have pull-up bars and plyometric boxes and ropes and rings, rings that we ceiling, lots of fitness things. We do agility and reaction and endurance and strength training. And
so the schools in your area, you've reached out to schools in your area and you say, what if you have children who are going through some emotional issues, that are having some problems academically, and you're having a hard time solving those things, give them or the parents a referral to us. We have a program. Is that how you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we we have it's called a directory. The local council, so that our local council will have a directory that schools can access where these kind of programs are available. And we've been checked in terms of our insurance and our policies. And so we're checked in the way a school would be checked by, in the UK, it's Ofsted. So we're regulated we're not quite regulated, but we're checked that we're meeting the appropriate standards. And then the schools can access us through the directory. So they can reach out to us that way. And then, so we know that we're kind of all working from the same idea. They look on the directory, they choose the most appropriate package, and then they can access it that way. But sometimes we work directly through the council.
That's a great model, because you're like the fourth or fifth guest we've had on that's said, we got to get this to kids who need it. There are kids who need this to help them grow as a person, to give them something, a handle in life, a handle to hang on to, something. And we've talked to different people that are doing it in different ways, but I'm starting to see a trend of people starting to say, how can we get jujitsu to kids who are maybe sometimes acting dysfunctional in school, or having behavior issues, or just have like a rougher life, and they need a place of stability where they're appreciated, where they're calm, they're getting energy out, they're getting praised for good things, they're also getting the guardrails, because maybe they get none of that at home. That's a wonderful thing you're doing. So when did this start, and how is it going?
Started in 2019. So I've been doing it for years, 7 years, and it's great. I love it. And we've just been given actually some sponsorship money so that we can actually offer some funded work now, which is even better, because the schools don't have to pay us. We will give it to them for free. Essentially, it's not for free because somebody's paying for it. One of our members really values what we do. And he actually owns children's homes. So children that have they're in care. So they live in a home. He owns a whole series of those. And he believes that sport and fitness it's a really positive way to support any young person, or any adult, in fact, who has had any form of trauma. So we are going to use...
Absolutely, yes.
So he's going to sponsor us to run some programs. So the programs I'm going to offer to local schools one is going to be for young men looking at positive identity. So we're going to use jiu-jitsu, and we're going to use I'm going to work with Zach, my colleague, who does the personal training and the jiu-jitsu with me, and a psychotherapist. We're going to look at offering a program for young men who might be struggling with their identity because of things they might be seeing online and influences that may be challenging their thought process. So we're going to try and help guide them the right way. We're going to work with young kids that have maybe been bullied, or have witnessed abuse, or suffered abuse or violence. And we're going to offer them a physical pathway that uses jiu-jitsu and sport to support trauma recovery. And I'm going to work with my lovely friend Liz, who is a yoga instructor and a movement specialist. And we're going to do a non-contact body-based pathway for the same group of young people that have experienced similar, but are not ready for the physical touch element. So we're going to use more somatic and body movement.
That could also feed into the other program, correct?
We do a lot of it anyway, but we're just going to very, very much tie it in and target it for a very specific group. The groups that we have, we do work with children that are in care. We work with neurodivergent kids. We work with kids that come from very deprived backgrounds with very low aspiration. We work with children who are in families where there's substance use, real poverty. So a lot of the time there's different reasons for them being there, whereas we're going to target this very specifically to, they might not be presenting at school with poor behaviour, but they have struggled, they're struggling with something nonetheless, and they might need a little bit of extra support. So that's what we're going to do with that sponsorship money, which is a real, again,
It's like that social emotional growth that you're giving them, you know? I think it's amazing. I think that we need more of that in here in the US, Frank, too, right? More, I think schools in the US have too much of this, like the Department of Education is kind of got this barrier between school district and businesses, you know? And I feel that there are so many good businesses out there that can do so much for children that should be able to collaborate with school districts. There has to be
Yes.
way more, there has to be way more collaboration with school districts and businesses in communities to make a difference in children's lives.
I
There needs
agree.
to be more of that in America, and anybody in education needs to hear what they're doing here in the UK because it needs to be done here in the US.
That would be a godsend. And there are people. So one of our guests, you remember, Jason, the name escapes me, but is going to schools and offering classes at the school in jiu-jitsu for the young people. Remember that?
Yep.
I mean, it's happening. It just needs to happen more. And there needs to be, there's always our problem with our country is it's so litigious. Everybody wants to sue everybody for everything. And they do well doing it. So schools are very, very concerned, rightfully so. They have the taxpayer dollar. They can't just give those away in frivolous lawsuits. But the word jujitsu is scary.
Hmm.
And wait, arm bars and chokes and hands, that's the one thing that's bad about the image of jujitsu, right? Even though it's the gentle art, there's a whole bunch of legal barriers that schools are like, wait a second, people are going to be having their arm around somebody else's neck. I don't know if we want to get involved in this. Meanwhile, they're missing the entire thing that you were saying: discipline, resilience, leadership, self confidence, being praised, feeling good about yourself, and then taking all that back into the classroom. I mean, this is why it's very frustrating to live in today's society because of the barriers that you were saying, Jason, that everybody's always worried about getting sued. Everybody's always worried about optics. And a lot of times their eyes are on a different objective than on the kids. It's about the kids. What's best for the kids? Do that first and figure out the rest second. We
It
keep
takes a,
putting, yeah,
yeah, it takes an open-minded administrator to be able to accept the fact that you're not really teaching kids how to choke each other. I like how what Allie's doing with her program. You mentioned about you do it like the yoga thing you said, and then you said something about having a fitness component to it. I think if you get that message across that you're doing other things other than just teaching kids how to put others in arm bars and how to teach kids how to choke each other. You're going to teach a little bit of jujitsu naturally in the program, but if you make it known that the focus of your program is not that, I think you have a much better advantage in getting an administrator to accept
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And it's so natural for kids to wrestle, isn't it? And play fight. They love it.
yes,
Love it. And they go to school,
yeah.
do it in the playground, and they get told off. He's like, you can't do that. And then, but you
Yeah.
think actually, but they really want to, and they have so much fun doing it. And I understand
Yeah.
outside at break, it's not the right time. But I always think, in Asia, so many in China and Japan, they'll start the day with martial arts, really early in the morning. They'll all do martial arts together, and then they
Mhm.
start learning. And you think, I wonder what would happen in the US or in the UK if we had every child do a martial arts class, whether it be boxing or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or something, even Tai Chi or capoeira. If you had something for them to just put their energy and their focus into, would they go into the classroom different learners? I wonder.
And I think you know the answer to that. I think you know the answer to
I
that
do.
would be absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is something that, I mean, I love that you're doing this. That program, man, you don't even know. Like when you do that for children, you don't even know. It's not like somebody can come to you and say, this is where they would have landed, but because of your program, they're over here. You don't even get to know that. The pebble in the pond with the ripples. Those gifts are going to give until that kid ultimately, hopefully lives a full life and dies. The benefit you're giving them at this early age, at these formidable ages, it's so important. You know what, really, Jason, this has got to go out to administrators and teachers and really townspeople who have children. There's so much to take away from this. Like,
Yeah.
and also people who train like professional development. For example, anybody who's the head of professional development for their school or for their company, they need this book. They need this book because there are so many other things that I read. I have my own notes of what I read from here. There are
Right.
so many takeaway values for somebody who's in it. Anybody in administration needs to buy this book right now. So if you're watching this, we're going to have a link at the bottom. I know we're not done with our interview or anything, but I'm getting so excited about all the things you're talking about. And I want this word to get out that we need to do better as leaders in corporations, as leaders, as teachers, as administrators. And the philosophies of how to do that are in this book right here. It's a beautiful book, Coaching the Next Generation, Allie Bailey. We're going to have a link to it. If you're listening to us on Spotify, I'll say it slowly. Coaching the Next Generation by Allie Bailey. Look it up. Where can they get this, by the way?
It's on
Allie,
Amazon.
where can they buy this?
On
Amazon.
all around the world.
And go on Amazon. Type it in. Allie Bailey. Allie Bailey. Allie Bailey. Allie Bailey. Get it. If you're a leader, you need this book. And it's easy reading. It's crisp, pristine, cogent, easy to read, fun to read. Get it.
We're going to put that link. We're going to put the link to buy the book right in the description of this podcast, so you can just
click
go right on it. Bam,
click on it and just look at the cover and then meditate a couple seconds and then press buy.
Can I just show you something actually? Because
yes,
I want you to look at the cover of the book and tell me what you see with that belt. What do you notice about the belt at the bottom?
It's a black belt,
3 stripes.
with 3 stripes.
Do you notice anything else at all about the belt?
Oh, there's there's different colors on the outline of it. No,
So
I'm slightly colorblind, just so you know.
I'm just going to grab
Just
some.
slightly.
So this is my
Okay, go ahead.
This is my old black belt, but it fell apart. Like really, really fell apart. But
Damn,
look at my black belt. How cool is that?
it's hard to see. It's pixelated. Oh, do you have different colors on it?
Mm-hmm.
How
So-
come? Did you put
I
that
don't-
there?
No, where the black stitching has come away, this was underneath. So I love this belt because it's my rainbow black belt. It's just so cool with all the colors. So yeah, this is on the cover of the book. It's very basic, very clean, crisp cover. But if you know, you know, the black belt is a rainbow black belt because it is my belt.
I love that. And you know that the color black has all the colors in it.
Yeah.
So that's just them manifesting because you are manifesting. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love it. So we're going to definitely plug this book. We hope a lot of people, you got to get this. You got to get this. It's a great book. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm a teacher, and I'm always I have the philosophy, even though I know my art, I know it really well. If I'm not growing, I'm thinking. There are some things already from your book that I'm going to implement in September in my new year. And I'm very grateful for a lot of the wisdom that you've shared with me. A lot of the things that you've shared are very close to me as a teacher. Like I've learned these things the hard way, and you're just giving these golden nuggets. If anybody is a new teacher in education, this book will give you the real tools. A lot of, and I say this with respect, but a lot of education courses are academic claptrap and Tommy rot. This is what should be taught. This is what should be taught in education classes. This is what should be taught. These are real strategies, real techniques that are going to make you a great teacher right off the bat. The philosophy, and what Allie does is she gives you the overarching principle, then the philosophy, then the strategy, then the tactic of how it would look. That's what you do in your book. Your idea, then the general strategy of what you're trying to do, and then here is an example of it. And like I said, it's jiu-jitsu, but it could just as easily be algebra or biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has wide appeal. Wide appeal.
Wow. Well said, Frank. Well said. Well, it's been
Damn.
over an hour now.
An
Allie.
hour and
I can't
11
even
minutes.
believe
Where
this.
did it go? We need more
It's-
time. We
I
need
know.
to meet you again.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Allie on our podcast again.
No, we're gonna have to get Allie here to do a skip over the pond and come on down, roll with us, and have some fun. Let us show you Boston. You and your husband. It would be great for you guys to come down, and
It'd be great.
You'd have a place to stay, and we'd show you around. We're an hour away from Boston, which is a beautiful town, beautiful city, and we'd love for you to. You now have family here, so make sure you
Ooh,
use
do you know,
that.
we both have family in the US, actually. Paul's brother's in Jersey, near
In
Philly.
New Jersey, okay.
Okay.
And
So
my
do you come here?
we do. My brother lives in Chicago, and
Nice.
he's also a black belt, and he's just about to open a school. So he trains under
Wow.
so he trains under Carlos Lemos Jr. in Chicago. So Carlos, amazing, multiple-time world champion. He's a Gracie Barra. We Gracie Barra for a long time as well. Hence how we know Carlos very well. And Mike, my brother, when he moved to America, he started training with Carlos. He's now black belt under Carlos, and he's opening a school. My son is in Chicago right now. He's in the US for the summer. Yeah. So my son is out.
Oh my gosh, you're like you have an empire. So can you give your brother's school a shout out? First of all, give your school a shout out in Hastings, England.
So we are Dark Star Jiu-Jitsu in Hastings.
Okay.
My brother's school,
Dark
Star Jiu-Jitsu.
Dark Star. For anybody listening in this area, you've seen this woman. You need to bring your kids there. They're going to get love. They're going to get resilience. They're going to have fun. Send your kids there. Check out this school, Dark Star in Hastings, England, if you're in the area. Make sure you get this video out to all your people, all your friends on Facebook or whatever, so they can bring their kids into your school. Now give your brother a shout out.
So Mike is about to open Gracie Barra West Loop in Chicago. So
West Loop?
West
Loop?
Loop.
West Loop in West Loop. Not West Loop. No. Not West Loop, but West Loop. Okay.
Loop.
West Loop. And I need to make you say, you got to say it again for me. You said it and I loved it. Say water bottle.
Water bottle.
Water
I love
bottle.
it.
Water bottle. Oh, that's so nice. That's so sweet.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So can I get this
Wait.
one-
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, Jason. I have to cut you off because did you beat up a bouncer?
Oh yes, we got to get this story.
Did you
in
beat
there.
up a bouncer? Is this
They-
true? There are rumors going around on the internet that
Yeah.
you beat up a bouncer. So tell us, is this true?
No, I didn't beat him up. Was this what you were going to ask me, Jason? Was this what?
Yes, I was like, I can't let this podcast get away without Allie telling us this story.
I also have to tell you about the King. Don't forget about the King. So yes, many, many years ago when I very first started, I was younger and probably lighter than I am now. And I was still a white belt. We trained up in this, this was back in the day. We didn't have our own school for years. We kind of sublet this room at the very top of a building, this tiny little room. And we trained, one of the evenings I went was a Friday evening. And before we started our session, there was a group of bouncers doing some training in there, ready to go out for Friday night in the town, in the doors, doing the security for the doors. And there was a room full of males and one female bouncer, and they were showing this technique and she couldn't do it. The guy she was working with, she just couldn't get him down. And we were just all sort of sitting there waiting for them to leave so we can do jiu-jitsu. And she's trying, she was lovely, this girl, but she could not get this guy. He was 25 stone. I don't know what that translates to in kilos. 20 kilos, maybe. Big guy, huge guy. Anyway, Paul, my husband now, shouts across the room, Allie will take him down. And I'm thinking, I'm a white belt. I don't know that I can take him down. And this guy he just looked at me like, yeah, of course you will. So I did, we call it a valley drop takedown. You lift the arm, go to the rear body lock, block with the legs, sit straight down, take him over and mount. And he just went down. And he was shocked, to say the very least. It was really fun. And but for me, being this I'm almost always the only girl on the mat. And back at that time, I was always the only girl on the mat. And it's really hard to believe in that you're learning and you're getting better, because you're always training with a guy. They're always bigger, stronger, heavier. It's really hard. Even now, it's still hard to fight guys all the time. So it hit home for me in that moment. This stuff works. Jiu-jitsu works for a smaller, lighter person. It works. And I think it was the thing for me that really made me believe. And that's what I can inspire other young girls and women to believe also, because I know it works and I can prove it works and I can give examples of how it's worked. And I can give that to other women, which I'm really grateful that I can do that.
Absolutely.
And you can do it early on in your training too, because I think you said something about a story as well when you were like 4 months into your training and you were working at a bar.
Yeah.
And some massive guy was picking on you and you got him in a rear naked choke or something. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. So I did. I worked in a nightclub. This is in the very early days when I was teaching, when I wasn't earning very much money at all. I had 2 young children, separated from my husband before. This is before I knew Paul well. And so I had 2 young children to support. And I was working as a teacher, so I worked in a nightclub to earn a bit of extra money. And predominantly, I was behind the bar. But every now and again, I'd need to come out to get glasses. And there was a group of men who'd played rugby that day. They'd won their tournament and they'd been out drinking a lot. And they'd come to the nightclub to celebrate some more. And this big, huge guy, as I came out from behind the bar, he just picked me up and just put me over his shoulder. And he's like,
Oh, wow.
you know, like, look at me. Look how cool I am. I've got this girl over my shoulder. I'm like, put me down. And he wouldn't. So I guillotined him. I just wrapped his neck and guillotined him. And he put me down and bought me a drink. He was like, oh, I can buy you a drink, and apologized profusely. And
You guillotined him. How did you feel after? Did you feel like Superwoman after doing that?
I did feel like Superwoman. It was amazing because he'd made sure lots of people were looking because he was the man and he had me on his shoulder and he wanted everybody to see. So everybody saw him get guillotined as well, which was pretty embarrassing for him.
This is the way female BJJ practitioners get people to buy them a drink at the bar. Throw away that idea. Throw away that idea of trying to flirt with some guy to get a drink. This is the best way to get yourself a drink.
This is the new movement. You lay hands on me, I'm going to guillotine you. You're going to say you're sorry and buy me a drink.
100%.
That's right.
Hey, do you remember if it was an arm in or arm out guillotine?
It was 100% an arm out guillotine.
Nice. That is such a cool. You are so cool. I love that story that you did that. In real life, you did that.
It's very woman empowering.
It is. It's very.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is so empowering. I mean, I'm so blessed. I've written this in the book, but 50% of my kids that I teach are female. And I love that. And they are assassins, those girls. They're just brilliant. They're so technical. And I have young women that train 5-6 times a week. And they're obsessed. They're obsessed. And I love it. I love it. On the mat, doing jiu-jitsu, training with boys, rolling with boys, happy, comfortable, confident. And I just look at them and think, if you were my daughter, I'd feel pretty safe if you were out with your friends, and I'd feel quite confident that if anyone was inappropriate, tried to grab you, they're not going to, Yeah, I love it. May I tell you?
They're gonna learn. They're gonna learn like that guy in the bar learned.
Yes, indeed. And I won't bore you with them, but we have stories of things that have happened with female students where they've used their jiu-jitsu to great effect in the same way. May I tell you about the king, really quickly? Because
of course. Because we're hooking into royalty now.
Of course, we only saw this online. We didn't hear it directly from the source. The King of England, King Charles, visited Roger Gracie's academy in London this week. And Mauricio was there. Mauricio's just been given his red belt, which is awesome. And he's I don't know, we know Mauricio relatively well. He's a really nice guy. He gave Paul his black belt in 2000. He's lovely, and I love that he met the king. So the King of England met the King of Jiu-Jitsu in the UK, and they took lots of pictures.
cool.
Done through Reorg, which is a UK charity that provides veterans with free Jiu-Jitsu or CrossFit training to support PTSD or fit him back into a community when they've come out of the military. It's a really good charity. So I think it was all to do with Reorg, but there was a picture. They gave the king a white belt, which was kind of cool, that he's now got a white belt in jiu-jitsu. But they also did an on the mat group picture. But the king didn't take his shoes off. So they gave him, the blue things, the blue plastic things that you have to put over your shoes.
Yep. In the hospitals. Yeah.
So the king is on the mat doing a picture with the blue plastic things on his shoes.
Do you have this picture?
There's no shoes on the mat. I don't care if
you share that picture with us.
I will send it. I'll find it and send it to you. It's awesome.
Please,
yeah. Can we post that, Jason? We can post that with this next.
I think so. I mean,
if we're allowed to, are we allowed to post that?
It's in the public domain. I don't think anybody would mind. I just think it's fantastic that.
Wow.
Even the king.
That's kings recognize kings. You know what I'm saying?
100%. But no shoes on the mat. They're the rules.
No. That's it.
Yeah. So awesome. Oh man, this podcast has flown by, Frank.
I can't believe almost an hour and a half. Wow. 90 minutes.
All right.
Do you know what time it is?
I don't know, Frank. What time is it?
Well, let me check my watch. It's tap out time. Your favorite part of the program where we wrap up and distill every little bit of wisdom that we can from our speaker, and we hand it right to you, our listeners. So I have here, if you're watching on video, a ton of notes, and I'm going to try to just talk about something you gave us. There was no fluff in this. Everything was poignant. Everything was cogent. Everything was moving. But I'm just going to talk about some things that struck me particular that I like that you talk about, and I think our listeners will too. One of the things you said early on is just one of the ingredients in success. You said when you started teaching, your strategy was to watch others who you know are good and watch what they do. And I think that makes you smart. And a lot of the books I've read on success say exactly that. If you want to be successful, find people that you like, admire, and respect who are doing what you would like to do and watch them. Mm-hmm. That's it. That they can be your even if it's just your visual mentor. Very smart. You talked about always implementing an element of fun in your learning, because when people are having fun, they're most open to learning. I think that is absolutely true in jiu-jitsu. In fact, a lot of times when I start rolling now, sometimes I say, let's play, because I want to be more like that. I want to be more having fun and not worrying so much about winning and muscling and staying on top all the time. So I think that's a great philosophy. One of the most beautiful things you said, and I completely agree with this, and every teacher should listen to this. You said, when my kids come in, they know that I'm happy to see them. If you don't feel like that on most occasions, you should not be a teacher. Teaching's not for you. If you do feel like that on most occasions, you have 90% of what you need. The rest is the structure, the discipline, and all the other stuff. I love that you talked about clear boundaries. I'm going to say right now also, and I just never got this out. I think anybody who has children of 2 years old to 7 should listen to this entire podcast and take notes. Because even though you were talking about being a jiu-jitsu instructor and a teacher, every single thing you said here is going to make a good mother or father or parent. Everything you said here is what a good parent should know. And as I've grown up and I've raised my kids and I've watched other people, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, the people who have had your philosophy of, no, we're going to have fun, but you're going to know my expectations. And if I say it, it's going to happen. Let me say that one more time. If I say it, if it comes out of my mouth, if you touch that socket, you're going in timeout. If you eat that cookie, you're going in timeout. If you did it up, if it comes out of my mouth, I'm going to follow it, is probably the biggest fundamental that parents break, and it kills their discipline. And so you must be a great teacher in your dojo, and I'm sure you're a great teacher for kids, because that is vital. If it comes out of your mouth, you follow it up. Another thing that you said that I think is brilliant, and everybody should recognize this as a teacher or a coach: meet people where they are, not where you think they should be. Where you think they should be has no bearing. Where their peers are has no bearing. Find them where they are and connect with them there with no judgment. That will make you a great teacher. Another thing that I love that you said, which is right in the Stoic philosophy. I don't know if you read the Stoics, but the Stoics always say it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to what happens. Because that's what you can control. And that means being adaptable and looking for the opportunity. You gave a great example. And I love this. So we're having a heat wave. It's over 100 degrees. Everybody's sticky. We don't want the kids to be rolling because they'll be like two water bottles stuck together, right? And you came up, you're like, I'm not going to see that as a problem. Our kids need learning on hip escapes. The objective today is every kid's going to come out knowing a good hip escape. And you did it. And they didn't have to stick together. You saw a bad situation. And like a stoic, you said, okay, it sucks. It's hot. I feel that. But what can I do that's going to be good for the kids? And bam, the kids didn't have to roll in each other's sweat and they learned something they needed to do. And by the way, that is a universal philosophy that works everywhere. Another piece of brilliance, and I know I'm going long, but I can't help it. I don't want to skip any of these. Giving options. You talked about, as an instructor, compliance is not learning. Yeah, you can make them obey you because you're bigger, stronger, and you have the authority. But no, you're going to give them options. And your example was, at first, I just give you a look. At second, I say something. Third time, I'm going to give you a choice. You can stop this now, or you have a choice. You're welcome to sit out. And by giving them the choice, you're giving them empowerment. And then they feel like they're the king of their universe. They're going to make the right decision. And you can avoid all of the other authoritative options that you would have had to take. I love that. I love that a lot. I'm just going to add one thing that I usually do for my kids that are behaving badly is that a lot of times I'll ask them to come out and I'll just say, hey, what happened? Is it something I did? That is one of the biggest barrier crushers. No, Mr. D'Amelio, it's always this. No, it's nothing you did. I'm living in my car. Crap. Now I know why you don't care about a debit or a credit, because you're living in your car. Because you said this, Allie, and I love that you said this, and everybody needs to hear this. There is no such thing as a bad kid. They're too young to be bad. You can't call a kid bad. It's not their fault. A kid has bad behavior because of bad, adverse, challenging circumstances. A kid is not bad. They're still pure. And they need that love and they need those questions. You must be a phenomenal teacher. Power of praise. Jason, you talked about this. Allie, you talked about how easy the power of praise is. I still remember my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Boyer, saying, Frank, I really like the way you pushed in your chair. I still remember that from fourth grade. Is that not power of praise?
Yeah.
So, and you also talked, I know I'm going on, I'm going to try to be more concise here. You talked about the power of kindness and how it should never be understated. When you're a teacher, or even in corporate, you're leading a team, your kindness will go so much farther than fear and authoritarianism. Always remember that. Another great thing you taught us, you really developed a deep and broad team so that you have many mini yous. Not really mini yous, but mini yous in what needs to get accomplished. I'm sure every person on your team has their own way of manifesting it, but they know what needs to be done. The breadth and depth of your team and how you built them. So you have 8 to 16-year-old kids with a real job, getting real pay, to be real coaches, while your brown belts, because they're kids in the class, are filtering around. You've really created a three-dimensional sphere of support, and your school must kick ass, really, because of that. We're almost there, kids. Almost there. Another great thing you said is testing you against you. And as a teacher, I can't tell you how much that makes my heart happy to hear that you do that, because testing you against you, and I read in your book, I'm going to quote you if I get this right, personal progress over comparative progress. And if I got that quote right, I think that is a beautiful thing, because that lets every flower blossom at its own pace and be respected as its own beauty without looking at that giant towering flower or the other, 12 roses. You're just a little daisy coming up. You're still beautiful, and you have to compare you to you. That's great for you as a teacher. It's great for the kid. This is a master class in teaching. And finally, girl power. Raise the roof for girl power. We need more women in jiu-jitsu. You're a savage. You guillotined a giant man who picked you up. For anybody who has a daughter, anybody who has a sister or a mom, jiu-jitsu, they will be treated with respect if they go to a jiu-jitsu gym. 99% of them. Make sure you check their culture. And not only that, but the girls in our gym are killers. The girls in our gym, if anybody laid hands on them at a fraternity party, they would have a broken arm or they'd be taking a nap. And it really is. They're like 120 pounds, 115 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever. A girl who knows jujitsu is like a 200-pound muscle man. It's like it makes them, it's the great equalizer. It is magic. Your stories were great. And I hope every woman hears that. And if you're a dad or a mom, get your girl into jujitsu so you don't have to worry about anybody laying hands on your girl. And I know I definitely did not do a good job keeping that concise, but there was so much wisdom in there, so many golden nuggets. It was a gold rush. It was a gold rush. So what we can do for you is promote your book, Coaching the Next Generation, How to Teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to Children Using Evidence-Based Coaching. I would just say how to teach anybody anything, and probably how to be a good parent. How can you be a good parent is in this book. Everything you said kept going back to my mind and how to be a good. If you have children, read this book and apply it to parenting. If you have kids in algebra or calculus, read this book. And if you do jiu-jitsu, read this book. This is universal appeal wisdom, and I was long-winded there, but I couldn't help it. Forgive.
Very well said, Frank. Yeah, our call to action, Frank. So our call to action for our listeners is please get this out there. Let's make this podcast for Allie go viral. She has some relatives, she said, in Chicago. So
anybody in Chicago, share this.
Yeah.
Anybody in Hastings, share this.
And New Jersey, right? Your husband's family?
My husband's family, yeah.
New Jersey.
Tell them to share this in New Jersey. We're going to share this everywhere in Massachusetts. All of our listeners, please share this. We love to see, like, we're connecting with people in England. How cool is that? And
even
maybe the king, like kings recognizing kings. You know what I'm saying? The
king needs to share this.
The king, yeah. Where's the king at? We want a thumb up from him on this. So great stuff. I mean, I had so much fun, and I don't want it to end, but it's 1 minute and 37 seconds. This is one of the longest ones we've ever done, Jason.
I've had the best time chatting to you guys. It's been so much fun.
Yes, and now you have extra family here. You know that, right?
Amazing. We're going to plan a trip. We'll come and do a big
I hope you do. You need to. And is it Paul? Is your husband's name Paul?
Yeah. Yeah.
You and Paul, come here. We'll treat you like royalty. Seriously.
I'd love to. It'd be so amazing. We should.
Yes, we'll have some good rolls. We'll go out. We'll tap out some bouncers. You know what I'm saying? We'll do what we got to do.
We'll go out to the bar. If I go out to the bars, I'm taking you and me, Allie.
Me too. She's gonna be our bodyguard. We got a bodyguard.
Come.
And Allie, just so you know, when we finally complete our clock burning series, my magic on the mats is when Jason hits the go button for our 5-minute rolls, I can burn at least 30 to 40 seconds off the clock before I start. I have all these techniques. That's why my name's the clock burner. I save my gas tank. So when I come out with my official transcript, you're going to get a free copy of that, How to Burn the Clock.
I love that.
But now that Allie knows that, Frank, you told her that. So now if she rolls with you, as soon as I hit the button and I say go, she's going to grab you right away. She's not going to allow you a chance.
She's a 3-stripe, 3rd-degree black belt, right? So Allie, you have that, but I'm literally a red belt. I'm a purple belt, but in clock burning, I'm a red belt. So I'm not too concerned about. You'll probably tap me after I burn the clock for 30 seconds, but at least I can have that 30 seconds to relax and make sure everybody's okay. What injuries do you have? How you feeling? What are you working on? Anything? Don't worry, I got this.
You know, though, I would be with you in that chat. I think we'd probably burn the clock for about 4.5 minutes and then just roll for the.
Man, you're my kind of person. You're my kind of person, Alan. I respect that. Thank you. Thank you for being on my team. Team Clock Burner wins another.
Do you know what it's about, though? Communication and having fun. And sometimes it's just about the fun you have with your partner. Sometimes it's the role. I think you got to have all of it.
I completely agree. You're a very wise woman. We're grateful to have met you and to be able to connect with you and hopefully keep that connection.
Yeah, I'd love to. Be great.
All right, big hug, bam. Hope you got it over there in England. And, we'll be celebrating the 4th of July, not to rub it in, but we'll be celebrating the 4th of July soon. Oh, America. All right. You're not going to oppress me anymore, Allie. All right, guys. So have a nice weekend. Keep your cameras on until it says fully uploaded.
I will. Thanks so much.
Allie.
So much fun.
Thank you so much. Keep in touch, okay?
Be good.
And
keep it real. Right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful connections we've explored between the art of Jiu-Jitsu and your career. In your workplace and in Jiu-Jitsu, you learn to adapt and navigate challenges. So remember that persistence and the courage to embrace the lessons that you learn are the keys to your growth both on the mat and in your career.